Hi, this is CS Professor Pam with Jumpstart Code, and we are continuing our study of CSS, which is the language that applies styling to your web pages, makes them look nice. And CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. We are working through the content in this Interneting is Hard lesson. You can get to that internetingishard.com, and we are in the CSS section, Hello CSS. And let me do a quick review of where we are right now. We have a project with 2 pages in it. I have this set up in VS Code. I've got hello-css and dummy.html. And I have a styles page. So again, CSS is a different language with different syntax. And the basic syntax is that you have a set of rules that you are applying to certain elements or selectors. So if I select the body of my document, then everything within these curly brackets, all of these properties will be applied to the body of my document. And we can specify color of text, background color, font size. You see there are a number of different things. And in the previous 2 videos, we've talked about how to do this. So if we look at the page as it stands right now, we can see that this styling has been applied. Now, how is this file connected to my HTML file? That is done with this link command. And so we specify that I'm doing a link, which is a style sheet, and we have to use the href attribute to specify the name of the file. Now, I also have a second page over here, and if I click on that, you see it's got the same look and feel. So that is one of the reasons why we like to separate CSS from your HTML, because you may want to apply the same styling to multiple pages on your website. And instead of having to duplicate that information, you just connect the same style sheet to a separate file. So that's what we've done here. All right, now continuing with where we are, we want to talk a little bit more about this cascading concept of cascading style sheets. So I am here towards the end of this lesson. All right, so these rules can basically cascade down or ripple down from multiple sources. What we've done in our initial lessons is use an external CSS file. So that is a very common way of doing this. However, you always start with the browser has some defaults that are set into it. You can then have user-defined style sheets or our external style sheets. That's what we've just done right now. And we're going to talk now about page-specific styling and inline styles. All right. And this is from least important to most important. So inline styles that we'll talk about in a second will always override page-specific styles. They will override external style sheets. So that's the cascading concept. All right, so what we can do now is if we want to, let's say I want to do something a little different in my dummy.html page. I want to change the body color a little bit, but I still want all the other styling in terms of fonts and that sort of thing to apply. So what I can do to apply some specific styling to this page is within the head section of my document, I will create a style tag or a style section. So I am going to copy these lines here, and we are going to put them in, here's my dummy.html. And if I put this after this style sheet, then that means these will take precedence, right? So right now, let me show you before I save right now, here is what that page looks like. But when I save all, we will see that the text color has been changed, right? If I go back to my first page, you see the text color is this gray. But when I come to this page, I am now applying a text color of blue. So this color has more precedence than the color that is in the external style sheet, right? So that only applies to that particular page, okay? So we typically have things that are common across all our pages, and then you might have some things that you want to do specific. Although you have to keep in mind that those can be difficult to maintain because you just have to make sure that you make the changes. Sometimes you have redundant rules. It just adds another little level of complication. All right, so then the last one that we want to talk about is inline styles. And you should really only use these when really necessary. In other words, what you can do now is I can apply styling specifically in an element. So remember, we've seen that we can put attributes inside of an element. I can specify an attribute called style. And when I do that, then in quotes, you see what I have is these are my rules, like my CSS rules. So you can have one or multiple CSS rules that are all applied to that style. So I'm going to add this style attribute here. If I go over to the page that I have, there is a link here that doesn't go anywhere, right? It's right here. And I'm going to apply some styling to it. So here, inside of this element, and I'm just going to wrap this around so we can see, I have an anchor tag. It doesn't go anywhere. This is a page that doesn't exist. And I'm applying some styling specifically to this one and only A tag. Okay, so let's save all and see what happens. And so you'll see here that it only applies to that, right? Because there is another A tag in this document here, but this particular styling only applies to this specific A tag. So when you have just something that you need to apply like a one-time element, this is the way to do this, right? So that trumps everything. So we see now that we've got external style sheets, page-specific styles, and inline styles. But, you should really avoid inline styles for the most part, and make sure that you are doing your styling in style sheets, right? We can also have multiple style sheets. So let's say, for example, I've got a website that I've got some general styling that I want to apply to all of my pages in terms of coloring and fonts and that sort of thing. So I might have that in a styles.css. But then maybe I have product pages and I have blog pages, and there's some different things that I want to style on the product page and on the blog page. So I could set up a product.css link and only apply that to my product pages, and I could set up a blog.css link and only apply that to my blog pages. And the order matters. So the things after will override the things earlier, right? So first we'll apply the general styling, then we will override and change anything specific to products or change anything specific to blogs here. So really thinking about how you organize your files is a big part of software development and web design. You want to make sure that you're organized, and you want to make sure that you give your files really good names that allow you to remember what you use them for. All right, so we are going to wrap this lesson up, and then we've been focusing mostly on text formatting, but we're going to look at some other things in our next lessons that have to do with how we control the layout of our pages. And remember, anytime you are in doubt, you've got your MDN reference, and this is where you should go to double check the syntax of anything that you're unsure about.